Welcome to another edition of Tuning In. I think this is episode 14. I'm
Hmm.
Bob Lancer, and
Greg Nielsen. I
we
didn't laugh this time.
no, I
Oh,
didn't
oh,
either. Usually it's funny when you say your name. I don't know why.
I got through it this time, more or less.
Okay. And we're going to be speaking about, as we always do on this show, we're going to be speaking about the wisdom of Isidore Friedman, which
Hmm.
Isidore called organics.
Yes.
And Greg, there's a new book out, right? That you just
Yeah,
were
we
cover
got
of it?
out reprinted one of Isidore Friedman's books, the Wisdom Book, which I think you can see here.
Mhm.
It's available
Yeah.
on Amazon.
Isidore's drawing on that.
And that's very important. Gratefully we were able to get something
Hmm.
to use. And I have a graphics person who did a great job making it look halfway decent from
Good.
very scratchy looking thing. But yeah, he put that on many of his notebooks, inside of the notebooks also.
And then you also have Song of the Star Lords is available.
Well, no, that's not, we're working on that one.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
it's available only because I found a box of 35 copies I didn't even
Right,
know I had. So
right.
yeah, we'll post that so people,
Yeah,
if they need to find it, they can
yeah.
get it.
We'll put that in
And
the
then we're
description. They can get it
yeah,
through your website, right?
right through
Okay.
Patreon.
Patreon. Okay.
But uh, eventually we're going to reprint it and get it out on Amazon again, hopefully next year at some point.
Okay. And if this
Yeah.
evening we have any time at this show, this episode, if we have any time, we'll perhaps read one of those from Isidore's book. But I want to open with this
Yes.
paragraph and see your comments on it. This comes from Isidore's new
Oh,
publication, the
all
Wisdom Book.
right. Fantastic.
See what you think about this one, Dr. G.
Okay.
Well over 98% of
Hmm.
most people's thoughts, feelings, ideas, concepts, opinions, and words are from a work standpoint ignorant, useless, wasted, chaotic, and fomenters and creators of chaos, confusion, and eventual destruction.
Mm.
He has a way of with words, hasn't he?
That was a mouthful.
I know, it's one sentence, one
Wow.
sentence
Whew.
paragraph. I'm going to read it again.
Yeah.
Well over 98% of most people's thoughts, feelings, ideas, concepts, opinions, and words are, from a work standpoint, ignorant, useless, wasted, chaotic, and fomenters and creators of chaos, confusion, and eventual destruction. Thoughts, feelings, ideas, concepts, opinions, and words.
Hmm.
98% of those are destructive.
I think he was somewhat generous saying 98%, but but he was thoughtful that way. So
I
what was that sarcasm? I don't know.
don't know, but so how does one even gauge that? What is that saying to you, to me? What is that
Well,
saying?
what it says to me is as you become more conscious, self-reflective, self-observation, self-aware, I, and at least I can attest to my case, much of what I thought was what I was thinking wasn't what I was thinking. I was I was automatically identified with thoughts, feelings, actions, ideas, beliefs that really were not in alignment
So,
with
so, so you're saying that you weren't examining
I was unconscious.
words that was flowing through your mind, the thoughts, the ideas,
No,
the opinions. You weren't
no,
examining them for their relevance, for their accuracy.
no.
They were
It
just
was
happening and they would stimulate certain responses.
automatically assumed they were, not sure if this is the right word, but valid. I'm thinking it, so it must be true. Something
Right,
to that effect. Or
right,
society says it's true, so yeah, there was nothing to question there. Why? No
right,
purpose, no reason to do that.
right, right.
Other than once you start becoming conscious, you start to say, "Oh my goodness, I'm programmed kind of like a robot, automaton." I think Izzy used to use that word automaton.
Mhm.
You're a mechanically reacting, acting person. And of course, you have the potential not to be. That's the good part.
Yeah, and the way out of that is through self-observation.
Hmm. Yes.
Specifically here, it's just waking up to realizing, maybe there is a stream of words going through your mind
Hmm.
that you didn't realize was happening, you know?
After all these years, I still go especially when I wake up in the morning, what in the world is that stream coming in?
Mhm.
Just random, you
Yeah.
know, not even counting dreams, just random thoughts of the day. It's just, fortunately, I'm somewhat aware, but I'm always learning to be more aware. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so the concepts, the opinions, from a work standpoint, so he means functionally, right?
I would say functionally,
Or
yeah.
how do these work? How do these actually work in our lives?
And
What's the usefulness of the thought that you're thinking? The
yeah,
word.
and of course, when you become more aware of them, you start to realize that what you're attracting to you is very similar to what you're all those things we listed, all the things you listed when
Well,
thoughts, feelings.
and what's interesting is that we attract our thoughts.
Yeah. Hmm.
We don't create them in our mind. I think the subconscious or conscious mind is
Hmm.
a receiving. You know,
Hmm.
we receive
Yeah.
our thoughts, our concepts, right?
Hmm.
For you to form a concept of, well, what's happening, what's happening in the economy today? Where's the economy at, right?
Hmm.
And so a person starts to formulate a concept of what's up, but it's something that's coming to them,
Hmm.
right?
They're not originating.
Uh-huh. So
They're
we
not
attract,
originating.
we
They're
attract
reflecting, attract or reflect
or
or
reflect, right?
automatically identify. There's several ways of putting
Right.
it.
Right.
But obviously, organics is a wonderful tool to begin the process and to go even further to examine without overthinking what is the energy of those thoughts, feelings, ideas, beliefs, etc. And are they beneficial and are they wise and are they consciously functional in the moment?
Mhm.
Generally speaking, I would say there's that 98%. No, they're not.
Mhm.
And when you come to
And
terms with that, it's very beneficial.
so how would one come to terms with it?
I go back to usually the same thing I always say, begin the process of self-observation. Simply observe what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're emoting, what you're doing. Just observe.
Mhm.
I mean, that's for me, that's how I started. I didn't even know there was such a thing. You could observe what you're thinking. I mean, why? Well,
Right.
but
Right.
as time went on, I began to see the benefits because I didn't have to identify as much with that, whatever that was,
Right.
whatever that feeling,
And
idea, frequency.
by
Mm.
identify, you mean just automatically believe
Right.
this is the way to feel and this is the way to think.
This is what people do. This is the way things are, and that's the end of that. So you don't have much opportunity to dis, what do you call it? Doctrine of non-attachment, as you can call it. Let go, not go with it.
Not
Choose not to
automatic.
identify.
Right.
Yeah, not
Not-
choosing not to identify
uh-huh. And
automatically.
so if the mind, let's say, we're talking about the lower mind, not higher mind, which
Hmm.
like noetic level, that sort of
Yeah.
thing, is kind of like a receiving station
Hmm.
for thoughts, for ideas, for concepts. We can learn how to receive more functional, more effective, more intelligent, more useful, more
Hmm.
helpful thoughts, ideas, and concepts,
Right.
right?
Yes, and
Because,
that's really what the core of organics is, that transition right there, moving from the lower mind to the higher mind, if you want to put it that way,
Mhm.
where you can receive more direct, maybe I can call it transmission of more structural and functional qualities, direction, action, plans,
Yeah,
etc. Yeah.
we receive those.
Yeah.
And even I find it's interesting, we have the phrase decision making,
Hmm.
but I think it's really decision receiving.
Yeah.
No?
Well, of course, we can use the classic word ego. The ego likes to think it's in control
Right.
and that it's making things when actually it's oftentimes just following some whatever mindset,
Yeah.
belief system,
Mhm.
religious system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All
Yeah,
unconsciously because it's not examined what we're believing,
exactly. Yeah.
what we're thinking.
Right.
And so to attune the mind to receive functional, useful, helpful ideas and concepts, how does one do that? How does one go about receiving higher ideas? It starts with self-observation to notice what
Yeah.
you're receiving. You know,
And then I think
you could
another
be
major,
receiving like angry thoughts, you could be
hmm
receiving fearful thoughts,
yeah.
you can have depressing ideas,
hmm
concepts about the way things are that make you feel hopeless, right? And if a
Yep.
person's not aware, they think they're responding to reality,
Mm.
but they're really responding to their concept of reality.
I agree. And then you're asking, well, from
How do
there,
we,
where do you go?
yeah, how do
And
we
I think
receive higher, more functional ideas and concepts?
there's so many ways to talk about it or bring it up verbally, but Isidore in organics, one of the main ways you can call it mindfulness, bear attention, being in the now. He used the word bear attention. He used the word mindfulness. Korzybski talked about silence on the nonverbal level. Those are tools that actually align you more with receiving direction that might be more purposeful.
So basically, what I'm hearing you say is just by being more aware of
hmm
what your mind is up to, you'll naturally start receiving higher level ideas, concepts, thoughts, understanding.
And I think more and more you'll discover why not dwell in being aware rather than dwelling in being unaware.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
spend more, you'll see the value of it and the enjoyment of it and the benefits of it. It's not something that happens automatically. There is some effort involved, especially if you have the experience of many, many years of just believing unconscious, uh, the 98% of unconsciousness that you tend to identify with, without even any observation or any and I don't like the word analysis. I would say comprehension, uh, making it more aware. What is
Yeah,
it? Where is it from?
right.
Is it
Now,
beneficial? What is the frequency of it? What's the energy of it? Yeah.
how does it make me feel?
hmm
Then if you haven't, number one, notice notice what you're thinking, to develop the ability of conscious thinking.
hmm
One of the things I suggest that I practice is just sit down, close your eyes, and watch what happens.
I love how we both laugh at that because to me that says we both do that.
That's right. That's
And I
our
go,
world.
and a lot of times I go, what in the world is that? A lot of times I just start laughing. I go, what? What is that?
Close
It's
your eyes
nothing
and
about,
watch what happens. That's meditation,
yeah, that's meditation and it's a very common form of, Buddhist meditation around the world. Just simply observe the automatic flow of thought, feeling,
Mhm.
emotion going, and
And
you
by
just notice.
automatic, what we mean is I'm not making the decision to think about,
No,
my brother-in-law, you know,
no,
all of a sudden I'm thinking about my brother-in-law and I'm
yeah,
thinking, and that thought might be annoying,
yeah,
right? And then
yeah.
I'm thinking my brother-in-law is annoying, but it's
hmm
actually me annoying myself with the thought.
We start to tell ourselves these little mini stories. Sometimes they're big stories, but they go on an automatic reel of pictures and words. And we have the choice when we notice it, just noticing without reaction or
That's right.
less reaction
That's right.
actually gives you a sense of detachment and enjoyment and
Mhm.
greater fulfillment about moving in a different direction and opens the doors to receiving, uh, I call it direction, guidance, helpfulness, steps you might want to take, suggestions that might be beneficial, that feel good and
Intuition.
healthy. Yeah, intuition. There you go.
It comes from within. So,
Yeah.
um, so the first step, practice being aware of what's going on in your mind.
hmm
Notice the words that are happening, notice the thoughts, the ideas, the concepts. Notice those ideas. Just that's the beginning. Just
hmm
practice keeping a portion of your awareness
Yeah.
on your mind. while you're going through the day. And we'll talk about why it's so crucial
Hmm.
in conscious control of your mental activities. It's not
Hmm.
just, so you can, I don't know, call yourself a guru, right? It's not some new age foo-foo thing.
No.
Your mind is very much the steering wheel of your life, and
Hmm.
every thought is taking energy. And if
Yeah.
you're wasting your energy, your power on useless thoughts, you have less power to do what's useful. The results in your life are going to be lower.
Hmm.
It's very functional.
I did get an associative thought there, as we
Okay.
often do.
Which you
But
noticed.
yes, I noticed it. I'm going to share it, and I'm going to do my best to verbalize it. But I do recall when first learning about this process of noticing your thought, that I would say, yes, I'm going to notice my thought. And then I would forget that I want to notice my thought. And then I'd go, oh, geez, the last 10, 15 minutes have passed. I'm not even recalling what I was thinking. That was a good start.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
it,
also remember, and you
mhm,
probably had a similar experience being around Isidore.
mhm.
Often I would notice my mind just is perfectly quiet.
Yeah, yeah, resonating. He would put out that they call it in Eastern religions darshan, the emanation of a auric field of calm and peace and repose and
And
in the
clarity.
moment. Yeah,
So,
it was
so,
wonderful.
so his state of consciousness was somewhat contagious,
Yeah,
right?
and it's a beautiful thing because you get a
Yes,
chance to experience something directly.
that's right.
Gives you a sense of where you need to go
Yeah.
on your path. Yeah.
Mhm. And you can get a little bit of that when you're reading the writer from an
Oh,
illuminated author, right?
definitely.
You get a
Yes.
little bit of a higher buzz from that.
For
Um,
me, maybe for you too, fortunately coming across Van, who we've talked about several times, reading his material, watching his videos, listening to his tapes was a staple for that process for me over
yeah,
the years. Yeah.
yeah, just raising the consciousness, the
Hmm.
frequency. So the a person can actually make themselves ill through poor thinking
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
because of the inharmonious vibration, the disturbance, the emotional disturbance, the
Mm.
stress that the thinking causes can wear upon the body. A lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
go into a doctor for a pill when all they need to do is practice meditation.
Absolutely, in my view, in my experience as well, true. I can give an example from my life. It's a bigger example, and some other people might relate to it, but I had a leukemia when I was around 20. Now, at the time, oh, I just got sick. Well, over time and self-reflection, it became very obvious. I helped create or co-created that whole experience for learning, but
Mhm.
also my brother had died a couple of years earlier, and it really brought me down. I didn't have the training how to handle that energy.
What exactly brought you down?
Well, I
The
started,
word,
oh,
the word.
yeah, exactly, the word.
Yeah.
And I resonated with
So you had a
all
semantic reaction
correct.
to the
Yeah.
word leukemia, which I'm sure everybody listening, I would
Hmm.
assume everybody, in
Yeah.
quotes,
Yeah.
listening, had a semantic reaction to that word.
Yes.
Something happened inside your body when you
Hmm.
heard that word.
Oh, yeah.
That's the reaction, automatic semantic reaction to words, which again can be sickening. It
Oh,
lowers
yeah.
vibration. It
Hmm.
and so Isidore would talk about learning how to be non-reactive to
Yes.
any word.
Hmm.
Don't load emotion onto any word.
Right. So I exasperated it by the identification being in a hospital. Oh, people, oh, you're suffering. Oh, will you live? Will you die? I mean, the energy of it was very debilitating. But fortunately, through some kind of whatever process of awareness, awakening, I attracted some opportunities to change that, which were very beneficial.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you live to tell the tale.
So far.
Forever, forever.
And
Actually,
yeah, I'd even
yeah.
told the tale many times. I just told part of it right there.
So when a person has an automatic emotional
Hmm.
reaction to words, they say, well, it's normal, it's typical.
Yeah.
everybody would feel that way, you know,
Hmm.
but there comes a point, and Vivian talks about this quite a bit, where we have to individualize,
Yes.
where it's not just because everybody's doing it, it doesn't make it right for me.
No.
And how do I know if it's right for me? By the vibration, by the feeling,
Yes.
by the effect that it has on me. If I have a negative effect to, if I have a negative reaction to a word, the word is now controlling me.
Hmm.
I'm losing my power. And
Yeah.
then anyone can start using words, and people are really good at it,
Mm.
use words that manipulate the reactions in people to get the reaction they want. And it doesn't even matter if they're saying anything that makes any sense.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
just playing the piano. They're just
Yeah.
using words to get someone to trigger off the way they want them to trigger off.
Hmm.
And if you haven't practiced this awareness of when a word, when a thought, when an idea, when a concept is happening, and how it makes you feel, you're easily victimized by propaganda
Oh, yeah. And as
and
we've talked
commercial.
about,
Yeah,
as we talked about many times, as you transition to being more of an energy-oriented person, an energy being, or Bitman calls it the first crossing.
yep,
You start to pick up on the energy of thought, the energy of feeling, the energy of emotional reaction, and you go, wait a minute. You stop identifying, register, but don't react as much as you mentioned,
yeah,
and it liberates you to actually individuate more,
right. And one of
which
the
is
techniques for release of a semantic reaction, I would suppose, is the touch and let go exercise.
yeah, yes, that was something Izzy introduced to both of us. We use, I'm sure, a lot, still do,
So why don't you
and
describe, I know we did it on an earlier podcast. Why don't
yeah,
you describe how to do the touch and let go process to release your energy from tyranny, the tyranny of words?
yeah. Well, what I do and what I believe Izzy talked about a little, a little variation to that. I would write down something that uh, my reaction to words or my over-identification with words or semantic reaction on a piece of paper. I sit comfortably. I have a person sit comfortably. I describe it in my Beyond Pendulum Power book, but it's, Izzy has it in his notebooks. And you put your hands on it,
Fingertips, right?
fingertips,
Mhm.
and and then let go.
Yeah, so let's say you write the word
Hmm.
that you have a reaction to, you write it down on a piece of paper,
Yep.
place your fingers on it, and
Hmm.
how I understood is you feel how you feel. You notice the
Oh
feel.
yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
notice the reaction that comes up in you. Spend
Yep.
only 3, 4, 5 seconds on the word.
Yep.
Then you lift your hands off the word
Yep.
and try to lift your feelings off the reaction. You just let it go. I'm not thinking of
Yep.
the word anymore. Going back to peace, harmony. Then I
Hmm.
do it again and
Yes.
do it over and over. I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
I know Izzy would have us use the pendulum sometime. What would be a wise amount of time to do right now?
Mhm.
Rarely did I get more than 15 minutes.
Mm.
2, 3, 4, 5 minutes is fine. It's not a matter of quantity.
Uh-huh.
It's a matter of what's appropriate for you energetically at that time for releasing that energy.
That's
And then
right.
he would also comment to me that after you do that, just take a little bit of time to sort of settle with it.
Right.
Uh, I think a couple of times I felt so energized, I just ran out, took off to do something, and that was not a good idea.
Right. You're
Give it a
too.
chance to settle,
Mhm.
and you're kind of changing the rate of vibration there, and it can throw a little, yeah,
And it's an
wrench.
interesting exercise to observe, take a day, take a lifetime, and
Yeah.
observe um, how am I reacted to, how am I reacting to words today?
Hmm.
Someone's telling me, "Oh, you look really nice today," and that did that cause a positive reaction? And did someone say, "Oh, what's wrong? You're not looking that healthy today"? Did that create a negative reaction? We want
Hmm.
to have no react. We want to be in charge of our own energy, so that
Hmm.
what if someone can tell you something and it brings you up, that means they can tell you something and it can bring you down. It's only
Yeah.
a matter of time before those opposites alternate.
Yeah. You generally want to not overreact positively or negatively. So you can observe that. If you notice yourself getting too amped up when somebody gives you praise or too down when somebody gives you blame, you're still working on non-identification and you're working on managing your energy still, which is fine. It's a great process to go through and it's very helpful.
But it's also having an effect on your perception.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Because
yeah.
when we're in a reaction mode, whether it's up or down, maybe it seems more pleasant to be up. But either way, it's kind of like Isidore would use the metaphor of driving your car blindfolded.
Yeah.
Because in order to see clearly where I am, what's going on, and to receive higher guidance of how to deal with what's happening, I have to be centered and balanced and calm.
Yeah. If you're too overly excited or too depressed or negatively charged,
Right,
you're going to resonate to something that's really not going to give you clarity.
right.
Yeah.
You can see. So what's interesting also about thoughts, um, is that you could be picking up thoughts because you're in a group of people who are
Mm,
resonating at a certain level.
yeah.
Like, you can have a holiday family gathering, and
Hmm.
people at the family gathering, they're not really into like being aware and watching their thoughts. They're just thinking, let's go, what Isidore used to say, the bed, the belly, and running around, right? That's
Yeah.
the value system. And so, you can find yourself not able to get those higher thoughts in that
Hmm.
situation, and
Yes.
actually getting the lower thoughts and falling into identification with the values of the people around you.
I think I might have related a bit of this story previously, and there's so many examples we could both give, but one when I was teaching more and people would turn in papers. Say it was due before midnight on a Monday or something. Well, I needed to be aware of that because if I'm having between 6 o'clock in the evening, most people would upload their paper. They upload it to this website for the university. And between 6 o'clock and midnight, I needed to be very aware of that because I would have 30 or 40 people, all some very emotional, rushing, pushing, fearful, and I'm being unconscious and not aware of the energy. I could pick that up, and I often did. So I had
Absolutely.
to learn how to manage that energy and be prepared, not be unaware
How did
where
you
that
do
was coming. Okay, well, first of all, just being conscious. Sometimes I'd feel it in my stomach or the back of my head. Right away, I knew more or less where it was coming from. It was no intentional thing necessarily toward me,
it?
but being sensitive to energy, I needed to be aware of it. That's a lot of people, you know. So if I'm too exhausted or tired, I needed to be aware of that. So the first thing is being aware of it. The second thing is letting it go internally, using a variety of methodologies, rhythmic
So when you
breathing.
say letting it go, what I'm hearing, what I'm
Yeah,
understanding you saying is the first thing is you're picking up a feeling and it's not very comfortable. It's
no,
an
no,
uncomfortable feeling that you're picking up, and you can sense this is
yeah,
not my true state.
yes.
I was in my
Might be,
true state a minute ago, but now
yeah.
I'm kind of out of it. And and
Sometimes,
and being kind of cognizant of the
yeah.
situation that you're in, you can
Hmm.
kind of more readily identify, oh, I think this is coming from my students. I can also
Yeah.
say now my task is to
Hmm.
unlatch my energy from
Yeah.
what's coming at me.
So
And you
there's
do that by breathing and
a variety. I mean, everybody finds different ways to do it, but things that say is the suggested to me and I started implementing was slow rhythmic breathing.
Mhm. What is rhythmic
Uh,
breathing?
Rhythmic breathing means you can many different methods
Right,
there,
right.
but you can go slowly through the nose to the count of 2, 3, 4, 5, pick a number. Sometimes three was a common one for
Well,
me.
you don't even really have to count, right? I mean,
No,
you
you don't
just
have to count.
feel the rhythm.
Just feel the
A
rhythm of
nice,
your breathing
balanced, steady
in
rhythm.
and out. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
And then another thing he suggested that I used, if I felt like a little things in my, say, my belly area, my solar plexus area, little stabbings, a little, it's hard to put in words, but little, sometimes it's just slightly painful, little stabbings, irritation. I'm being pulled there. I would visualize internally, like almost like a chimney inside of me, where the energy moving up to a higher frequency, up
Mhm.
to the top of the head, which was the crown chakra or the whatever you want to call it, the
Mhm.
higher frequency. And by doing that and making that a habit, those two things alone were very helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think anything you do to release yourself is going to be somewhat helpful because your
Yeah,
subconscious is getting the message, this is not me. This
right.
is just something that's coming at me. And one of the things that leads to in my associative process is how we are affected we're talking about how thoughts affect us, how our thoughts affect us. We are affected by the energy of the person we're thinking about.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. Sure. Especially when you think about, you find you're thinking about a person a lot. By a lot, I mean more than
Yeah,
a few thoughts. It goes
right.
on every
Repetitive.
day, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes all day, a part of a day, an hour of
Who's
a
coming
day.
back into your mind?
Hmm. And
Well,
it's
that
almost
could
like
mean
a,
they're thinking about you,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the important thing is that, the ability to recognize what you're thinking,
Hmm.
what you're thinking, and how the thought is making you feel,
Hmm.
right? The feeling, that's the energy level.
Right.
If you're thinking about someone and they're in an angry, uptight, insecure state, you can start to fall into that pattern. If you're
Hmm.
aware of how you feel, you recognize it. If you're aware of how you think, you're very discriminating of who I think about. Particularly, like one of the things that affects our thinking is tiredness,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've
fatigue.
talked about this before, but you have to monitor your energy level. You don't
Yeah.
want to be in a state of excessive tiredness.
And when you are tired,
Hmm.
don't think.
I take a nap
Yeah. Yeah.
quite often. If I
Yeah.
can, if I have the time,
If
I'll
you
take a
can.
nap.
But
Or
that's when
sli
you want to be particularly aware.
Hmm.
It's ironic because it's the hardest to be aware when you're tired.
Oh, yeah.
To make sure, because every thought you're expending energy, your thoughts are probably going to be at a lower level. It takes an abundance of energy to be able
Hmm.
to tune in to the higher states, to
Yeah.
higher ideas. Remember,
In
the
risk.
mind is a receiver, and
Yeah.
you have to be in a certain state to be able to receive constructive, functional, useful ideas,
Hmm.
right? And if you
Oh,
talk,
yeah.
that's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things in order to regain our energy, one of the things we need to do is rest our mind,
Hmm. Yeah.
not just rest the body,
Yeah. Rest the mind.
rest the
And
mind. Just
and
thinking,
this
thinking, thinking just burns more energy.
for me, everybody discovers and uses different ways of doing that. For me, sometimes it's just taking a nap. Sometimes it would be maybe something, some kind of humor. Sometimes taking a walk. Your mind is still active, but it's not as active. You're enjoying the outdoors. You smell the flowers. You feel the wind, the sun on you. You're more sensory aware, and you're letting excessive thinking go.
Mhm.
You're taking a break
That's
from,
right.
yeah, and it's fantastic.
Just
When you
go
do
into
that,
observation.
mhm,
And little by
and
little,
mhm,
and it is little by little, it takes a long time. It took for
yeah,
me a long time to
yeah,
get control of that mind and to be
hmm,
able to keep it still and
yeah,
to keep
yeah,
it quiet so that I can tune into the thoughts, that are helpful.
hmm,
Mm. So, we have to be mindful or aware of like where we are, who's around, what their energy level is. We talked, I think it was last time or previously about, recognizing the basic point of consciousness of the
hmm.
people who are around, because that's going to have an effect upon our thinking.
Oh, yeah,
But to make the thinking conscious, so you recognize when you're thinking and how
hmm.
that thought is making you feel. It's like navigating an inner world.
Oh, yeah,
You're
hmm.
navigating the inner world to avoid a collision,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
with negativity.
yeah. And it's a wonderful process to go through, and you get, just like a lot of things you practice over and over, you start to get better at it. You have lapses from time to time, but you get better at it,
By degrees,
and by degrees. And
approximation.
sometimes somebody says, "Well, uh, a week ago, let's get together and do such and such. We'll get coffee at 5 o'clock on a whatever Friday." Well, if it's 1 o'clock on a Friday and I'm exhausted, I'm going to change the plan if I can. If
That's
it's
right.
not, it's not usually mandatory. It's a friendship meeting. We're going to have a cup of coffee, talk a little bit about whatever, and
But
I'll just change.
even if it's quote unquote mandatory, I have found that
Yeah.
if I have to push myself, beyond my energy limits, if I have to
Hmm.
push myself past fatigue or try to force myself to do something in an unbalanced state, like I'll force myself to go to the meeting, and then the
Oh,
other person won't show up.
yeah.
Like it wasn't
That's true.
necessary.
Yeah, that's happened.
It
I have
wasn't
had
even
that.
necessary. Like
Yeah.
the universe functions in a balanced way, and if I'm imbalanced, it's not going to work out.
And we've talked about space with space-time, energy, matter coordinates.
STEM
So
universe.
if you're using the STEM coordinates, you can start, you know, what's coming and what you're going through now. You can make some adjustments. If I
Okay,
have to,
let's get more specific about the STEM universe. So
yeah.
if I'm going to go someplace, I'm going to consider the space,
Hmm.
how that might affect me, the literal space of it. Like if there's going to be a crowd of 50,000 people, that's
Yeah,
one thing. If it's going to be a coffee shop with a couple of people and some nice jazz music in the background, that's a different space. That's
right.
so I'm going to make a different choice. The
Hmm.
time is, do I have time to get there without a rush?
Yeah.
I have the time to actually be there without having to rush to my next thing.
Hmm.
The energy is, do I have enough energy to do this effectively?
Yeah.
Or am I
Yeah.
tired? And I guess the matter would be, is my car in good shape? Can it get me there? That sort of thing.
Maybe it's a local place. I'll take a walk. It's 3, 4 blocks. That's a nice thing sometimes too. But all these adjustments using, you know, space, time, energy, matter,
Huh?
you get used to those things, and you just
Right.
do it. You do it consciously, but it becomes more of a conscious habit, if you want to put it that
Yeah.
way. You're
Yeah.
just used to doing it because it works. It
Yeah.
works and it makes life easier, more
Yeah.
fulfilling, and more enjoyable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
I know
that
from
helps.
time,
And that's what Isidore called reasoning by coordinates, right?
yes, like from time to time nearby in the Nevada desert here, they have, they call it Burning Man. It's not that far. It's just and it's people locally here come into town and friends. Are you going to Burning Man this year? No way, I'm not going to Burning Man.
No, 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 no,
I don't want to burn alive, you know.
no. That
But
but now Burning Man for some people
yes,
open up their energy
yeah,
centers,
yeah,
hey, open up their creativity, they can have an epiphany, an awakening. Other
yes,
people can go there and it can be
hmm,
draining
yeah.
and degrading.
And
As
I've seen both things happen in different degrees in between. Somebody going, having a wonderful creative experience. And sometimes people say, oh, they're all taking drugs. No, they're not all taking drugs. I mean, they meet people, they talk to people, they make connections. It opens up a lot for some people and a little bit for others.
Mhm.
So I only went when there was nobody there practically. That was that was perfect.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
things
And
like that, you
what I
know not
also,
to. Yeah, go ahead.
it's totally individual. Even the drug
Yes.
is totally
Yeah.
individual.
Exactly.
So when you take the time to reason by coordinates,
Hmm.
to give yourself access to higher ideas,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Your
to higher
intuition.
intelligence.
Yeah, your intuition, as you mentioned
Yeah,
before, becomes more obvious.
yeah, yeah.
You're
So
aware of it.
instead of just impulsively, oh, yeah, I want to do that,
Hmm.
pause, let me consider the space, let me
Hmm.
consider the time, the energy, the materials involved, how much
Hmm.
gas it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost, for example. Do I
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
right clothing, that kind of thing, the materials. Now, when I pause to consider those things, that pause, that gives me a chance to receive
Hmm.
from a higher level. Whereas if we're just responding impulsively to this and to that, we're probably getting lower ideas.
Yeah.
And the
Well, we
lower
become.
ideas, again, the problem with lower ideas is not only does it waste your energy on the thinking of it, but
Yeah.
it has a degrading impact on your energy system,
Oh, yeah.
your
Yeah.
body, on your overall functioning, on what you're radiating, what you're attracting, what you're manifesting. It all goes down from lower ideas.
You kind of get into that vicious circle.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
The
Yeah,
treadmill. Yeah.
tumbling down the hill. Um,
Hmm.
the One of the things that I've discovered through the practice of conscious thinking, and I know we're
Yeah.
going to talk about right speech, but
Oh, sure. Well,
zoom, zoom, zoom. We may not get
hey,
it.
you can do it anytime.
That's
It's a
right.
universal topic. We can go. It's a Buddhist topic too.
But what I find is if I simply do the practice of if I'm feeling disturbed, upset about something,
Yeah.
stressed out, anxious, it's almost always in associates with something I'm thinking about.
Hmm.
And by practicing keeping my mind free, as soon as I notice a thought that's disturbing, I let it go. By
Hmm.
practicing keeping my mind out of disturbing thought, I'm so much happier.
Oh, yeah.
Life is so
Truly.
much easier.
Hmm.
right? Even the thought, like people go into what they call overwhelm. Like they
Mm.
have the idea, I got to get all this thing done, all this done. I
Oh,
don't have the energy. I don't have the time, right? But
mm-hmm.
I got to get it all done.
Yeah.
And so this idea puts them in a state of oppression or a state of pressure, right? A
Mm-hmm.
state of stress. And it's just an idea that I have to do this,
Mm-hmm.
must do this. That's the idea. And what we're doing is we're shifting with that first crossing into the energy level is if you don't have the energy to do it, you don't have to do it.
No. And the other option too is you can, using the coordinates, space-time, energy, matter, you start to say, look, I can do it by progressive approximation, bit by bit. If the time is allowed and the energy is there, you may do a start. Maybe it's 5 minutes of just an outline of what you're going to do. And oh, tomorrow I have a couple hours free, and let me make more progress then, and
I'll
so on.
just
So
inch it out, right?
inch it out. Yeah,
Inch by inch.
you
And
don't have to
then
do it all at once.
that's right. So overwhelm is often just a reaction to automatically believing a thought that you have. I've got to get this done or else.
Mm-hmm.
If I just trust my energy, so I'm going to let go of that thought. I'm going to let myself stay in a balanced, harmonious energy state.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to depart from that state no matter what. Another thought that I find has maybe a dismantling of inner peace effect on people is thinking about what other people are thinking about them.
Say that again. That's great.
Thinking about what other people are thinking about them.
Oh yeah, some people have that. And I'm sure I know I did at one time. I mean, my do my mom and dad approve of my behavior? Is this the right college to go to? I mean, whatever, you know.
Yeah, or does this person not like me? Or is this
Hmm.
person like me? Or, thinking
Yeah,
about people thinking about you,
yeah.
and not even being aware enough of the thought to realize I don't know what they're thinking,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I'm thinking about what they're thinking. And if I'm not conscious, I'm thinking it's their thoughts.
yeah, yeah. And you can
And
make up
so,
stories about what they're thinking about you.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I did this. They didn't, I'll make something up. They didn't call me back. I thought it was an urgent call. It's been 3 days. I wonder what's going on. Do they not like something that I see what I mean? You start creating stories. Uh, the
yeah,
mind can be like a story scenario machine. It's
that's
and a
right.
lot of it has nothing to do with anything, really.
No. And it just causes stress and
Yeah.
distress and unhappiness. And then you can be actually angry at the person you think is thinking negatively. And now it's like, I resent them, I can't talk to them, and there's all kinds
No.
of chaos. This is what I was talking about, the chaos and the confusion that comes
Hmm.
from unexamined thinking. People can, I'm sure, unbalanced people can like kill each other
Oh yeah.
over
Yeah.
over a thought.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
I think what he just said was about me.
Hmm.
I've had it. People have been
Yeah.
thinking about me that way for my whole life. I'm ending it now,
Yeah. So it becomes like the what do you call it? The conflict and the attacking back and forth can start to happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so to be able to notice the difference between what I'm observing that's disturbing versus what I'm thinking about is what's disturbing me. And
Hmm.
that's where I can start to take control to live a less disturbed life.
I love that.
And when we're living in that state of disturbance, that's dangerous because it could become, angry,
Yeah.
fighting, violent, destructive. This is
Oh
what I
yeah.
think Isidore's talking about, that
Yeah.
the unexamined mind is like the devil's workshop,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's my heart goes out to the people that haven't quite got onto this yet,
Mhm.
but that's
Yeah.
one reason we're here to share
And the people who live
organics.
and the people who live with them.
Yeah. It becomes an
Yeah.
unbearable situation, just compounds itself, and it just rolls down the centuries, the generations, that
Yeah,
pattern.
they're ancestral patterns that are brought, you learn it in your family.
Hmm.
You hear somebody talk about somebody, though, that person, doesn't like me. And now
Yeah.
oh, okay, so that's the way you think and that's the way we live. We
Hmm.
automatically identify what I'm thinking as reality
Yeah.
instead of pausing to question it.
Yeah.
And then, to be for right speech to happen, right
Mm.
speech is like the product of right thought.
Hmm. There you
Right?
go. Yes.
If I'm in a disturbed state, I can't receive a good thought. And if I can't
Yeah.
receive a good thought, I can't like express myself in constructive speech.
Yeah. It pretty much, it'll start to, well, almost always reflect what you've been thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the timing of what you're saying becomes really just uh, dysfunctional too.
Hmm.
So it even becomes worse because you're not even saying something that's even communicated in a way that's can be comprehended at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
To be able to speak clearly, to be
Hmm.
able to speak succinctly, so we get to the point quickly, to
Yeah.
be able to speak constructively, like
Hmm.
if you know that there certain words tend to be loaded with semantic reaction,
Hmm.
to be careful about which words you use so that the other person can stay in a calm state and receive what you're saying constructively.
And then do your checking along the way if you're hanging out with somebody and you're having a conversation, looking at them. Are they grasping the language that you're using, or is it language that's like incomprehensible because you're not really paying attention to what verbiage might carry the information that you're trying to get across in a way that's receptive or
Well,
received? Yeah,
now we're talking about the law of three.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So when we're
Mhm.
having, it's so easy when we're speaking, it's so easy to get so caught up in what I'm talking about that I'm not paying attention to the fact that the person's looking at their watch, their eyes are going like this. Like I'm so into like completing my thought, and
Mhm.
this person has no interest in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm wasting their time. I'm creating stress in the relationship. They walk
Mhm.
away saying, God, that person was annoying.
I've had that happen to me.
I never had that happen. I don't know why.
Yeah. Uh, can I excuse myself? I don't think I understand a word you're saying here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so speaking with the other person
Hmm.
requires, so right speech is speech that's functional,
Yeah.
constructive, useful. Like one of the examples of the opposite of that is they used to say complaining is like spitting against the wind.
Mm. Very, very wise statement.
Did you ever
Yeah.
hear him say that? Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
because when you're complaining, look at how it makes you feel. Look how
Hmm.
makes the other person feel. Look at the energy that you're radiating.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe there's something going on that you're not pleased with, but if you go into a negative state about it, now
Hmm.
the problem has expanded.
Oh, yeah. And then if you get into a compulsive state where you're repeating this complaining story over and over again, not only in your own mental field, but also with anybody who'll give you an ear. And sometimes you meet people that'll tell you the same story, complaint over again the next time you see them or down the road a year from now. And
Yeah,
it just gets tiring and annoying. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So people speak unconsciously. They're not aware of how loud they speak. They're not,
Hmm.
they're not, you can, sometimes people think if I can hear myself speak, I guess everybody can hear me.
Mm.
And they speak
Yeah.
too softly. Sometimes they'll speak too loud. And,
Yeah.
they're not aware of the space between the two of us. And it's overwhelming that way.
I've
Uh,
had students that don't speak loud enough.
yeah, yeah,
And I've had to learn to walk, say it's in a group of people. I walk over closer to them and say, would you mind repeating that? And then, did everybody hear that? And I'll share it. Do you mind if I share it with the rest of the class? Because it's just so, it's like a little mouse.
I used to use the opposite technique.
Yeah.
I would do in a classroom situation, if someone was speaking quietly,
Yeah.
I'd walk further and further away.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe encourage them unconsciously to raise their voice to
Yeah. Yeah.
reach me. And then they start talking, say, I go like that, right?
Okay. Yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for that. It's a good skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Everybody's different.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes you need to be aware of the context in which you're speaking. You could
Hmm.
be speaking, saying something really personal about someone and someone else is in earshot.
Yeah.
The conversation could be so loud in a restaurant, let's say, and everybody else has to be listening. They're disturbed by it. And
You're
it's and so some people think like, well, I'm just being me. This is
right.
how I speak, This is just how I am. This is just the way, but they're
That's
not
the end of that.
functional aspect of it.
Yeah, they're not. I love what you said about being aware of when you're speaking in a public forum or for public place. I live in a neighborhood where a lot of people interact and know each other by sight. They're not friends necessarily, but acquaintances.
Mhm.
So when you go into a place, you do need to kind of look around. If somebody starts bringing something up, I generally always, almost always pause and take a good look around because it could be very, if the other person's talking with me about something that's personal and the person 2 feet, 6 feet away, maybe it's about them. And it
Mhm.
really shouldn't be talked about. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so you have to be
So,
thoughtful that
so
way.
there are techniques, there's the technique I use when I feel it would be appropriate for someone to lower their voice,
Hmm.
I'll start talking more quietly,
There you go. Yeah.
right? Because people tend to mirror
Hmm.
automatically, and I'll just start talking more quietly.
No, these
So,
are very useful skills that you're bringing up. Thank you. Yeah,
yeah. And then
very good.
the pace, how quickly we talk, I'm an Aries, so I might talk too quickly. You're a Taurus, it might take you too long, in someone's perspective,
I'm
right?
still having my first thought. I'll get back to you on that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So we touched on right speech, and I think we'll get more into it in the
Oh,
future.
yeah. And
Um,
like I say, in the wisdom book, there's a whole mini chapter on it. So,
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
on right speech, and I've read it and read it and read it and read it. I
Yeah.
recommend reading it and rereading it a
Oh,
hundred
yeah.
times. Um, but I did want to just touch on one little
Oh, yeah.
busy thing: the
Yes.
wearing of garlic.
That has crossed my mind several times in the last 13 episodes. And I,
Let's
if you
touch
share,
upon.
you want to, I can share first or you want to share first. It's up to
Why
you.
don't you go first?
Let's go back to the students uh, situation where they're all maybe 10, 20, 30 people are turning their papers in over a 6 hour period. From time to time, it would be, whoa, that's a reaction. But it was like, that's not me. And it's a little bit intense. Okay, now this is what based on what I learned from Mizzy, I have my garlic ready to go. I go in there, I cut a couple of pieces and turn them in half, cut them in half for me. You may do it differently. I put it in a
You
paper
take a clove
towel.
of garlic, you peel the garlic,
Right, I peel the garlic.
you wrap it in
Exactly.
cellophane.
I put it in a paper towel.
Ooh, but that can seep into your skin.
Well, I
Well,
don't
to each his own.
I don't really put it on my skin or in there.
Oh,
It might be
'cause
over my teeth.
I was taught to put it in my belly button.
Well, I do it sometimes. I have a t-shirt on or something like that, and it goes
Okay.
right there, and it works.
Right, right, right.
And I
So what does it
you have
work? What's the purpose of it?
okay. It tends to transmute the energy and discharge the automatic frequency coming at you, through you, to you, and it helps lighten the load of what you're trying to process. It gives you a little gap, a little breather, a little boost. And I've done it behind the neck, in the
Mm,
stomach, wherever I'm getting, even in the heart center sometimes, wherever you need to put it. I would say quite often, if not almost every time, it helps reduce the rapport,
mhm.
the frequency link.
So
So
if you're feeling like you're in rapport with someone, you're
yeah.
feeling kind of agitated or down or upset,
Hmm.
and you feel like it's because you're connecting with someone on an energy level,
Yeah.
got a piece of garlic, peel it,
Yeah.
place it in wherever you feel like you're being disturbed, perhaps in your body.
Well, describe how you do it, because
Well,
maybe we'll learn something.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
go
the only
ahead.
way that the way that I would do it was, going to public places.
Yes.
I haven't had to do it for years,
Okay.
decades really.
I
But
do it weekly, weekly.
when I was living in New York, I used to do it a lot.
Oh yeah.
If I'm going to a situation where I think there's going to be low vibrations or
Oh,
inharmonious vibrations for me, take a
oh,
piece of garlic, peel it, wrap it
okay.
in cellophane, tape
Okay.
it to my belly button,
Oh, tape it. Okay,
tape it to
that's a
my
great
belly button.
insight. Thank you. Yeah.
And just go into that public space. And like you said, it just somehow would lighten the load. I don't know if it was subconscious. I don't know if it's a placebo. I don't know. Maybe it really works, but it did seem to be
I've
somewhat.
been using it now for 50 years, and for me, it works.
There you go.
So I'm
And
going to continue using it. Something works, I use it. And
yeah,
that's basically what I say. Test it out. Tested organics. Organics works for me. It's
well,
fantastic. So
on
there you
that
go.
note,
Try it out.
on that note, dear friend Greg,
I feel like a clove of garlic.
I think we are garlic, maybe.
We're cloves. We're cloves.
If people hang out with us, they feel good, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
So
Enjoy.
we've completed our 14th episode,
We'll
and
keep it going.
feeling fresh and new and alive and
Yeah.
joyful. Any closing remarks?
I would just say practice, practice, practice.
Right,
Don't give up.
right,
Get back up, practice again,
right.
and do it at your own natural rhythm, and you're going to get headway.
It's
And you're
all
going to
about
feel, and
practice.
you're going to experience it, not
Right.
just hear about it. Yeah.
Just make the effort to put into practice. Put what into
Yeah.
practice? Any of the topics that we're talking about.
hmm
Tonight, this episode, just practice watching your thoughts.
hmm
Just notice that you're thinking when you're thinking. Notice how the thinking is affecting you. It could
Well
lead to
said.
great liberation. Until next
Well
time,
said.
my friend.
Adios, amigo. All
Adios,
power to your
amigo.
life. Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.